Yeah, hello, Prof here, and we've got a couple quick videos coming out here. Just a couple things came on in I thought I'd share with you guys. First one we're doing on what is effectively a classic. No, not that. It's just expensive. I really like it though. Um, and that is right there, the Beyerdynamic. These have been kind of slated to come out for a while. It is the Beyerdynamic DT770 Pro X limited editions here. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way if I can. And, you know, made in Germany, you know, blah, blah, blah. Not much on the box, because these are a, here you go, perfect choice for monitoring, recording, you know, bag. They have like the, I forget what it's called, but it's the 48 ohm driver, their newer 48 ohm driver from their 700 series. Like the 7 and 900 series. Probably a horrible video for information. And I need to unhook these now. Great. Oh gosh. So, cable is long. Mucho longo. Sorry, I need a drink. So, cable is mucho longo. And you're like, hey, those look like a pair of 770s. Nope, they're the 770, well, they were 770 Pros. No, they are the, oh, my camera is on. Nope, they're the 770 Pro X's with the new driver on here. You can kind of see the branding there. It's got the notch out in the middle for the crest to your head, so you don't get pressure pushing down on that. The nice big classic velour cups. I would say listening to these that the sound signature is definitely different than the originals. You remember this uses the same drivers that the 700s do, or effectively the same. I don't remember what the name of it. It's the 48 ohm. Let's see. DT 770 Pro X Beyerdynamic. Blah blah blah. Stellar 45. I was correct. Haha, look at that. I don't know if I said it, but my brain in my nose said it. Discover more. Yeah, so the DT700 Pro X's are 270, upwards of 350. Yeah, they're on sale for 270 right now. Same driver in them, that Stellar 45 driver, but they have more of like a microfiber instead of this velour cup. A much more like modern vibe to them. I knew these were coming out for a long time because they're kind of they finally did an update on their like most, or maybe not their most well-known head, but one of their most well-known pairs of headphones. These are great for live monitoring. So whether you're up on stage or you're at the soundboard on a live event, perfect for that. And the other place that can be good for is recording studios. If you're in the booth and you need to monitor yourself because if they're being closed back, there should be less bleed. Whereas generally speaking, the DT900s DT900 Pros would be in the booth, or in the, like the recording booth, because they can be open back. You're not worried about them bleeding into a mic, and they have a wider sound stage that adds much more separation. But these are a nice flat, like, for those wondering, these are in the same camp as like an MDR V6, very much in the same camp there. I would argue more lower end, and I'm saying on the original DT7 770s. Now these Pro X's actually have even more bass, but it's definitely the Beyerdynamic signature. The big thing for me is because they have new drivers, I was wondering if it was going to get rid of the sibilance, which once you, I'm going to ruin the entry. I shouldn't say entry level, but like the normal level, like the 700s, 800s, and 900s for you, and look up what sibilance is, and you'll hear it on all of those. It is very, very much there. That is why I ended up selling all of mine. A close friend with a music degree I sent home the 990s with him one time, 990 Pros, and I'm like, yeah, you're not gonna bring it back. He's like, no, I'll just try them, and then 3 days later, I get a message. She's like, yeah, so how much did you want for these again? I didn't even really, and he's still rocking those to this day. Bad Seed Tech got my 880 premium black whatever limited editions, and he's like, oh, these aren't anything special. I'm like, yup. If you guys are wondering, the DT880 is like the Cherry MX Brown of headphones. And then Squeers actually got my 770s, and I had a 32 ohm pair. The reason why I bought those is because they actually had the shorter cable, because they're for live, or I don't want to say like live monitoring, like to go to like a mic pack sort of, or in this case it wouldn't necessarily be a mic pack, it'd be like a monitoring pack, like on you, so the cable's only 4 foot long. Yeah, you just saw the trick of these guys here. But on the and they had leather cups for even more blocking of sound, right? And they had like a 4 foot cable, I think, instead of the, I don't know, 18 foot long cable. And I grabbed those just because they're easier to drive on mobile devices. You know what I mean? Because normally, I think they're 80 ohms, might be more. I know the 990s by default are 250. Because that's where, quality pair of headphones in the 80s, 90s, generally speaking, like they hadn't gotten to the point where they had to make them 32 ohms for all these portable devices yet. If you had a big pair of headphones, generally speaking, you weren't using them with your Walkman or your Discman. You were using them with a home theater set or like some sort of hi-fi or studio arrangement, or professional audio equipment. So they really didn't, like, 80 ohms would probably be, even a lot of the Sennheisers of that era were at least that much, if not 300 or 600 ohms. Whereas nowadays they can get that's like one thing where people are like, oh, like new headphones are so much better. Once you have a good pair of headphones, they don't get worse, guys. That's where this was interesting for me, is because I was like, I wonder if with these Stellar 45s, they could get rid of the sibilance. And that's not something a lot of people talk about when they review even the 770s and the 990s. And because it all depends on what you listen to. I listen to a lot of jazz, ska, reggae. I'm trying to think of what else would be in there. Stuff in that genre. There's a lot of hi-hat, and there's also a lot of like open hi-hat, so you get a lot of tss, 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 and stuff in that range. I'm trying to think. I brought it up before, like what other instruments are up in that range, and a lot of that music is up in there, right? Because you're talking like more brass instruments, can be like the smaller brass instruments, higher end of woodwind, if I recall correctly. It's just like a certain tonal thing, and once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it with the Beyerdynamics. Like, probably with a short listening session or talk I'm on the listening, but if I'm like paying attention, I was like, ugh. So that's why those kind of like went away. Also, I had my R70Xs, which were just like, I basically did R70Xs and MDR V6 I also had eyes, stuff like that. So I had other things standing in for them. As far as I can tell, these are definitely better. I don't necessarily know if they've tuned around it to get rid of the sibilance. I've watched a couple reviews. I haven't seen anybody mention it, but I'd have to ask Squares because he's the closest one that still has a pair of Beyerdynamics. I guess I still have my headset someplace. I have the MMX 300 headset, not the new one, but the original one, which I believe is based on 32 ohm DT770s. I might be wrong. I think the new one's built based on the 880s. And is not as well, not the MMX 300. It's like they have a new gaming headset that replaced the MMX 300 Gen 2. It's based on like 880s. Bad Seed commented about it. He's like, yeah, it's basically just those headphones. Why is everybody like super praising these? These are like literally average. I'm like, yep. Because they're semi-open. It's like you don't get the nice closed monitoring sound of these, right? The like the expected tonal sound of these, and then you also don't get the high amount of separation and soundstage that a 990 has. Some of the like one of the coolest things I've actually listened to was you get a creative, like it'd be X5. I think they're creative Z series sound card that have the virtual surround sound. And those are the ones that have proper virtual surround sound, where they actually tell the computer they have 5 channels or 7 channels or whatever, and then they use their algorithm to put that down into your headphones, right? They don't try and take 2 channels and upsample it. They take the 7 and downsample it. Pair that with a pair of 990s. Oh, like you can pick where stuff is just in exact height, left, right, up, down. Like there, because that soundstage is so. If you're listening to music with the 990s can be fun, but it also can be very fatiguing because you can literally like slice out where instruments are, especially depending on how the song is mastered. Like these are by far like their most iconic pair of headphones. And I'm glad they redid it with an updated driver. I picked a pair up because also, look at this. They learned how to make a removable cable. Look at that. Now, unlike the 1990, excuse me, and the, what does it say this cable is? 3 meters. So that's 9 feet. Let's see here. 6 foot. Yeah, I'd say it's about right. At my desk, I generally like a 4. I've been leaning more towards 5 foot ever since I've been in the basement cable. 9's a bit long for my use, but it's not obscenely long. Like I said, some of these cables had like 12 foot, 15 foot cables, because they're meant for, like you plug it into the audio thing for the microphone, which is on a mic stand, and the person is standing on a boom away from the mic, and they need to be able to plug it into that, so it's got to run along the mic. Often too with headphones, you actually throw the cable over your shoulder, so it's not in front of you, getting in your way with the cable. There's all sorts of stuff like that. But I am glad that it's just using a mini XLR connector. I will probably get a shorter cable once they're more available. It is not balanced like the 1770s and 1990s. It's because it's just a 3-pole or a 3-pin XLR, not a 4-pin or 5-pin. So that's like one thing that would be a bit of a bummer, but I don't believe the 700 or 900s have balanced as well. These are basically, if you've ever worn a pair of 770 Pros or 990 Pros, and not the premiums, those have a much lighter clamp force, right? The Pros, these feel exactly like it. These nice big velour cups feel like a bear is hugging your head. Yet there's enough squish for somebody like me who wears glasses, even when I didn't have my, I purposely buy these Oakley ones that have these thin spring steel arms now, because almost any pair of headphones can go over that, or any sort of thing you have to wear on your head can go over that and not impede. But you can kind of see here, there's a spot from my glasses, and there's so much plush in here and movement. You can have a finger even in here squishing all the way down, and it won't unseal the rest of the cup, or mostly won't unseal the rest of the cup. And yet it seals nice and big. So for those of you who have, like, you know, big ears and you touch the inside of cups, you will not with these. You will not. And if you, I actually like a headphone that actually like cups your head a little bit more. You know, like it's got a little bit of clamping force, and especially with these nice big cups, like it's just super duper nice. As expected with Beyerdynamic. The other thing you can come to expect with this is, just like all their stuff, super repairable. There's screws to take the arms off. This time they're Torx. Cable runs up through the arm, which is, I don't remember if it's a leather or pleather or padding up here, but it is more padded, I would say. It's definitely an improved padding, a little bit better branding with the Beyerdynamic up there. Still snaps, see? Still snaps. You know, this is definitely like a retro styled cup, because the original 770 was a bit more dome, whereas this definitely has that flatter design of the 770s, or sorry, the 700s, the 700 Pro X. And you're like, oh, why didn't you pick those up? Because I really didn't care. These are like a retro redesign of an original, which I liked. I just had, like I said, issues with sibilance with it, and I just had better options, and other people happened to want them or need headphones or were looking for that specific pair, etc. So I just kind of sold them off because I wasn't using them, because I would, you know, like, it's kind of like one of those things, like, once you hear it, it's like, ooh. Now lately I haven't had a bunch of time to sit at my computer and listen through my music collection. In fact, I've been working on my couch, trying to reorganize my music collection. Once it's reorganized, you know, I can sit down and give it a good listen and see if these have that. Because these are very much tuned for the curve Beyerdynamic is known for. So some of you might be like, oh, they're not flat, so they're bad, or whatever. No, it's kind of like Sennheiser too. They have their own sound signature. Sony does as well. I am personally a very much a fan of Sony's monitoring headphone sound. It's probably since I basically have grown up, or like when I came into existence, that headphone, MDR-V6, came into existence. And unknowingly, I used them for the first many years of my life, along with the Quest Port Pro, which is probably why those I still think, for how much they cost, the size and weight they are, those things sound great too. But that's why when Sony finally made an open back that's a little bit bulkier than the M1ST, the MV1, I got on that thing, because that's another thing. Like, these are big. Like, one downside of going open back a lot of time, there's a lot of times they're bigger headphones. These are pretty big headphones. They fit over everything. They seal well. Like I said, you've definitely, if you've watched recording sessions or live sessions, you've definitely seen artists use these. They're a very popular headphone for a good reason. And like, another thing would be, like, another thing I'll tell you too is, you don't necessarily even want them, because there's like the Harman curve, right? You want to actually, like, that's what, like, the expected curve that you hear headphones for. Like, you almost want it more tuned towards that than you do flat, right? Because that's what you're expecting. It kind of purposely dips in and out for, like, human hearing, what we're expecting, that sort of stuff. But then even then, like, what you want them to be is accurate and repeatable, so you have, like, a known expectation, right? Because everybody's hardware is going to be a little bit different, everything like that. But you know, like I said, these always had, even like in the original DT770 Pros, because they're so repairable. You could get, just like that original MDR-V6 and then the 7506, you could get every part of these as a repair. Now, the one annoying bit on all that line that has been around for, you know, what are we at, 20 plus years at this point, right? It was never a removable cable, and a lot of people modded them to have that. A lot of them would do dual on this, because they don't have to mess with going through the headband. But, you know, keep it classic. It's kind of like when Sony made the M1ST. you don't mess with you don't mess with a good thing. They tried that when they made the 7520, not the 7506. Like the 7520 was supposed to replace the. Well, they knew it because the shape of it was different. They tried replacing the 7506 with it, but not the CD900 ST, which was the Japanese version, because Japan would be like, oh, that's way too different. We'll just never accept it and never use it, basically. So don't mess with, an established thing that people already know, love, and understand. That you can just be like, hey, this is the new, better one. Go pick it up. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's lighter. It might feel a little bit lighter to me. But if you ever get your hands on like an original 700 Pro or a 900 Pro, those things are just tanks. Like especially the 700 that I had with the leather cups. You could just beat a person with that if you had to. Like it could be a self-defense weapon. These a little bit less so. It's same sort of build, but I don't know. Maybe the plastics they're using are a little bit different. Just thought I'd show them off though. The box, very simple, just black box with a gray sticker that closes it here. You cut it open, you use them. You have to buy these from like professional audio places. I mean, it might be on Amazon. I'll throw a link down there if they are. But like B&H Photo didn't even have them. I had to buy them from like you can get them from Sweetwater or Musician's Friend or Guitar Center. Like that's the sort of place you buy these. Same sort of place I buy the Sonys often. Less of an audiophile headphone, especially the originals. These might be a mix because they're using that Stellar 45 driver, but in the original shape. And I like I said, I love the original shape. So if I can get the original shape, potentially with no sibilance in there, or at least reduced, heck yeah. And apparently this driver, some people say it might lack bass or stuff like that. Well, because it's a very good and responsive driver, you can EQ it in. And there isn't any, you wouldn't, from what I've read, and listening to this, I don't think anything you have to EQ down. It's all EQ up, and that's all personal preference at that point. I don't EQ them because if I want an EQ, you know what I do? I go grab a different pair of headphones. For $200, I'd say these are pretty darn good. There are other headphones you could get for cheaper that are kind of in the same price range, but it's all depending on use. Like you can even get a pair of Sony M1 STs in that range. Another $50 on top to get the good ear cups on the Sony M1 STs, because I don't have, at least for my ear size. So, but these out of the box, I'm going to use them as is. Maybe I'll invest in a shorter cable. That is another thing too. This is, because this is an XLR cable. Gosh, the one nice thing about the originals that is a bit different here, and I can show this, is, yeah, it's got a removable cable, but this is almost detrimental at this point because, like, look at how freaking long it is. That hits my shoulder. I don't know if it directly hits my shoulder, but you see, there's not much strain relief there either. See that? See? So I'd like to see more strain relief there and a shorter connector. I don't know if you could do a shorter connector because metal goes to about right there. This rubber could be a heck lot more pliable though. But that's probably like the one thing I'd like to see improved is a shorter, more compact, because the other, like the old one that was hardwired in was about that long, like the metal part, exposed metal part on that. And not the most flexible cable coming out, but fairly flexible, definitely robust. This is a really nice flexible cable on here. But it does stick out quite far. So that is one downside, so for those that do it, of removable cables, is, here, I'm wearing it now. Alright, so, see, it's right there, especially with a hoodie. If you got a hoodie on the shoulder here, it's so that's where you'll see some headphones, have it come out facing here this way more. Some purpose, you actually have it facing backwards, and then you put it down your shoulder. So what I mean by that is, hold on. Here's where you might use it in like a live say if you're drumming, you don't want that cable going drumming. You don't want the cable here in your way. You just throw it down your back. You even might run it through your shirt if you're not needing to get up and that sort of stuff. And I just feel like this is a bit long for that sort of thing. That'd be my one complaint, but might be able to fix that with aftermarket cables. I've never had a reason. I've even replaced Beyerdynamic velour ear cups with brand new Beyerdynamic velour ear cups. My MMX 300s got broken at some point. They fixed them. So I sent it within the U.S. Somebody hand fixed them, or and gave them actually refurbished them a bit too, besides just fixing them, and then sent them back, and that was all through official service center. Really like seeing stuff like that. II does that as well. Where even though they're not a U.S. company, they do some service within the U.S. Secret, the brand I use for the wallet, they actually have repair in New York. Sent it there. They put new internal guts in it and sent it back to me, and I was floored. Whenever I love when places repair things, because even though in many cases it may not be more cost effective, it shows that you designed this thing to exist for a long period of time. And I appreciate that, because I will probably use it and keep it for a long period of time. It depends if it's good or not. If you make a good quality product, I'll probably hold on to it. Or if I don't hold on to it, it'll go to somebody else who will use it. Because I don't like stuff, if at all possible, within reason, sitting around here and not doing something. You know what I mean? But here you can see, it's a decently big pair of headphones. Especially if you're coming from me, who the size that I really like are the 40mm driver, Sony monitoring headphones. You know what I mean? And that's why when going open back, when Sony finally made the MV1s, I was like, oh, and they are a little bit bigger than their closed backs, but they're much smaller than most of their competitors. But these, like I said, these nice, they hug your. It's just got a good clamp and the nice velour. With the velour, even if you do sweat, the velour deals with it. It's you don't really feel closed in you are. I can definitely your bounces around there a little bit when you're talking, but it's not like some closed back headphones that feel like you're oh, I'm wearing a helmet or something like that. For this, it feels like a bear's hugging my head and just oh, you imagine your cat sitting on your head just giving you purrs and hugs and stuff like that. That's kind of what Beyerdynamic headphones feel like on that. So, yeah, this box is going out because, we can probably show you what's in it. There's nothing in it. Literally, because like I said, this is it's not as little things as Sony's professional headphones, but it's very similar because, here, watch. You open it up. I should probably keep that. That's the bag for it. The headphones are right there. They're clamped onto here. In that thing under there is your cable. You're done. That's it. Nothing to it. So even this is it's a fold-out guide of here's how to adjust them. Here's how to connect a cable. If you've used a pair of headphones before, you're not going to get it here. Use soft, moistened cloth. Carefully remove ear pads. Mouths help you. I think that's something else I saw that people said that because they're here, how to change ear pads, remove ear cup pads, carefully pulling them away from the ear cup, insert plastic lip of new ear pad into groove of headset. Apparently it's a little bit easier to get them on, and you just kind of you hook it and then kind of turn it and it threads itself. It's kind of imagine a I would say it's not as easy as a split ring, the key ring split ring. Hopefully you guys know what that is. Because that's got a coil in it, but it works very similarly. Once you get enough of it on, you just kind of keep pushing, and it'll just wedge itself the rest of the way. One of the more easier brands to do. The Sony MDR V6s can be a real pain in the butt, and because of that, a lot of aftermarket ones don't go in the little groove that Sony put on there. They just go over the whole side of the earphone, because it's easier to do that than go where Sony wants them to. So, and then here we got a little bit of, because this is the 100-year headphone. They're We've got like the various history of microphones, early headphones, ET1000. There you go. 1985 DT770 Pro and the new DT990 Pros come out. What's interesting is they don't have the 880s on here because they're the cherry brown of headphones, or at least of their line. There are other like in the DT100 line, like those were like in the 60s. Like these are iconic right here. And there's some Audio-Technicas that are kind of a similar vibe of that era. If you notice too, they didn't make a did they make an 1880 Pro? I don't know. But there's the Pro X series in 2021. I went meh. But once they put it in a classic shell, interested. Yeah, the 990s though, those had I've heard the 1990s even more so have a somewhat if you're looking for like a different sounding but good and accurate but different sounding headphone, 990s can do it. If you just need a solid monitoring headphone you just can use and abuse. If you haven't looked at it, like an MDR V6 or 7506, 770s or these 770 Pro X's would be on that list too. Like I said, they're maybe not as well known, but depending on what like which music industry you're looking at, Sony's basically taken over the Japanese, or not basically, they have taken over the Japanese one. So but yeah, like a lot of times, like I still have V6s down here, or you could use these 770s the same way. If you just need a quality pair of headphones around that you plug in and it will do that. Like they may not be like, oh, the super expensive $1,000 or multi-hundred. Like people like $200 are cheap. That's kind of like for a while, Screws and I would buy a lot of $200 headphones because you could get 3 $200 headphones for the price of one $600 headphone, right? And for the longest time, like I didn't think it was worth it to spend that much money on it, right? And I'd rather be trying out different headphones, kind of like when you're getting into mechanical keyboards. You'd rather try out different keyboards, different layouts, different switches. But then, once you decide on what you like, then you start going up market, and that's where I sold off all the Beyerdynamics and ended up going with the R70Xs, which I still have and love. But now that Sony has their new offerings within the past couple years, I have the closed back ones at work and the open back ones at home. Are the main ones I use. But the $200 price range is a nice price range where like you're spending some money, but it's not like you're never gonna recover from this. And a $200 headphone is better than a $100 headphone. If you watch out for the older, depending if you're less picky about what model, the 990s, 770s, and 880s can go on sale for as low as $80. I've seen them now. A lot of that was pre-COVID, but I have seen them go fairly low since then as well. So if you keep an eye out, you might be able to get a decent deal on them because they're an industry standard. So it's not like, oh, they're rare and they're not making them anymore, or no, these are like people buy them and then when they what they wear out, you're either going to replace them, or if it's anything like IT, what they probably do is they just buy another pair, and then while that pair is in use, they'll repair the other one. Then when that other one goes out, or somebody breaks a cable, or a headphone thing gets broken, you just you swap it back out and hand them that one, and then you go and repair the other one. I'm not gonna say they're disposable because they're not, but they're like good enough to use as like an industry studio monitoring headphone, but they're not like some precious piece of thing that can't just be used. You gotta split that, and it seems like the $200 range is kind of where that is for like audio at least headphone equipment. Sometimes it's a bit lower depending on like if you're running a studio, like a recording studio learning thing in a school, you might want to go a bit lower on your budget, $100 or even $50, and that's why they do other offerings. And they also have higher offerings like the 1990, 1880, or 1990, 1770, etc. Here's something interesting that I'll show you that I appreciated. The box things here, a lot of times they'll make these this long, and it makes them a pain in the ass to use, right? I liked, because I've actually taken boxes before and shaved these down to be shorter when I've reused boxes, so it's easier to, you know, put in like that. I like that a box has finally done that. Because I always think, now if you're like, why does that matter? Because that's an extra step, actually. The reason why the flaps are that wide is because if you unfurl the box in most cases, the sides of the box actually go out as wide as the flap. So they would actually have to remove more material to make them shorter, right? But if you notice, they gave these a little bit of a stylish thing. Normally it's the whole top to bottom, and that can get really tight too. They made it instead like a little tab rather than this whole piece. So they're willing to put it's just like, you know, just a little bit more, a little bit nicer. You know, they put a little bit of effort rather than using like the most generic box ever. You know, just put a little bit in there. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of like first look and rambling on kind of like where these sit in the market, why you might want to get them. Would I get these over the standard ones? Well, if you get them for $100 versus $200, probably not. But if you already have a bunch of headphones and just want, like, you haven't had Beyerdynamics before, yeah, pick them up. Especially for the price. The other ones with the Stellar 45 are much more, and this is definitely a classic fit for them. A fit that I personally like. Also, like, build quality wise, like, I chuckle across the room. I've done it before. Because I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't say they're as burly as the originals. Because they feel a little bit more hollow in the ear cup. Maybe a slightly different type of plastic too. But it's not something you have to worry about. Like with the R70Xs that are kind of like sitting back, I worry about them sitting back there, like not in a case. Whereas these Sonys, whatever. Same thing. Like those, a little bit, because they're super lightweight compared. But like, yeah, this is like magnesium cups. Like whatever. Whereas those back there, it's like you look at them wrong and you're like, ooh. So it's yeah. Let me know what you guys think. Are you gonna pick up a pair? I don't know how long they're good for. I know like this is the year for the 100-year anniversary. I assume they'll be available for some amount of time. But I missed the Sennheiser HD 25s when they came out with the anniversary ones with the yellow cups and I think it was like cable and something like that. Wasn't gonna miss these. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. We're going to be looking at something for the happy hacking. No, you're already seeing too much. Check us out in the next video.